I just arrived in country. Can I take test now?
Of course.
I just arrived in country. Can I take test now?
I'm sorry, sir. You have an appointment.
What's up, guys? Boy Benny. In any action movie or drama series, there's always this moment where all of the characters suddenly realize the game that's afoot, and that they are either wittingly or unwittingly part of an evil master plan, and they have to join forces to fight against it to stop disaster from happening to them and the people they love. And that is precisely what's happening in the city of Chicago right now. Chicago has been the city that has been Gotham City, like in the Batman series, or has been featured in Transformers, for instance. It's often the setting for major Hollywood productions, and so now all the people of Gotham City are starting to realize that they themselves are the witless imbeciles who have been voting for Democrats and Democrat policies for a very long time, and now they are getting completely fucked. They realize that the people they have been voting for and the policies of the party they've been voting for and fealty pledged to for their entire lives, well, that party is out to, well, destroy them, replace them, dilute their political power, and to make their cities utterly uninhabitable and unsafe. How do they do that? Through sanctuary city policies and through unlimited criminal migration directly into their neighborhoods. And the people of Chicago are starting to snap. They're starting to fight back. Sounds like this.
These residents say they no longer have any tolerance for the disruptive behavior by those seeking asylum here. It's making them feel unsafe.
They disrespect us, they rob us, they harass us.
And their patience is wearing thin.
Let me say this. They got one more time to deal with it, because otherwise, next time they deal with it, they're going to deal with it from the streets. We're going to take over it. Nobody's going to be able to stop us from what we're going to do to them.
Much of the residents' anger was directed at
Yikes.
city officials in attendance, including 20th Ward Alderwoman Jeanette Taylor, Chicago Deputy Police Chief Stephen Chung, and Family and Support Services Commissioner Brandy Kanazi. At one point, police had to intervene, breaking up an argument during public comment.
Ooh, man. Things are popping off in Chicago. And what I find particularly interesting about this story is that the residents don't avail themselves to the typical leftist nomenclature, slanders, and slurs to people that are concerned about unlimited immigration from the third world into our neighborhoods here in America. Because typically you would be called a racist or a white supremacist. Now, take the words out of this man's mouth and put them into, I don't know, some redneck's mouth, and that's what the liberal media would do. But have this man saying these words and they don't know what to do with it.
We have a hard no for immigrants coming here. A very hard no.
We come in a community of black people where we already get the low scraps. And then you want to take the little scraps, the resources that we have, and put us at the bottom of the barrel? That's not fair, and I won't have it.
We are a hard no on immigrants coming into this community. The man goes on to say, we're being replaced. They're diluting our political power by moving people in here that are stripping our communities of resources and are going to be obviously depriving us of the political power that we have amassed here in the south side of Chicago, which is a virtually all black neighborhood. And now these people are getting what they voted for. So will you vote differently? Let me tell you what, pal. Put on a MAGA hat. Join the movement. Happy to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, somebody who's not happy to have these people in the city of Chicago is the mayor of Chicago. A filthy, dirty, stupid, low information, absolute malevolent, communist, Marxist, a destructive force for the city of Chicago. A guy named Brandon Johnson, no relation. He is the mayor of Chicago, and he snapped recently. Apparently, he's been going to the hospital with panic attacks over the immigration crisis. Brandon Johnson has been blowing up at reporters talking about his kids and his wife. Is this a homophobic comment? Interesting. We'll get to that in just a second. Listen to the guy have an absolute apoplectic meltdown. I love it when we finally get to these people.
I have children who attend schools who have soccer games, y'all. You know, you all are asking me as if I'm not a parent in this city. I get it. I'm mayor. I get it. But you're asking me to give you a date, and I have to court. Do you understand that you have not had a mayor like me? I get that. I have a wife. I have children. They have schedules. And plus, we still have public safety that we have to address. We still have the unhoused that we have to address. I still have a budget that I have to address. And I'm doing all of that with a black wife raising 3 black children on the west side of the city of Chicago. I am going to the border as soon as possible.
I'm doing that because I have a black wife and black kids. Here's the skin color of my kids. It really matters. That's the most important thing. Also, he says, you haven't had a mayor like me. What does that mean? Is that a slight at Lori Lightfoot? Lori Lightfoot's also a Democrat. Lori Lightfoot's the person who Brandon Johnson beat. Lori Lightfoot is gay and doesn't have any children. That's just a matter of fact. And so was that like some type of homophobic slight? That he has a wife and he has kids? I don't know. Maybe a great question for Brandon Johnson. I don't know. Maybe a great question for Brandon Johnson. And you know what? There are some really great questions happening to Brandon Johnson. Brandon Johnson's not a very popular dude. Local reporter repeatedly asked Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson point blank if he will raise taxes to pay for illegal criminal aliens flooding the city. His non-response and bumbling for 2 straight minutes will leave you stunned. Oh, I love this one. Check it out.
You added a tax to help pay for the migrant crisis.
Here's what I've said repeatedly. This is an international crisis.
And we've heard you say that.
Okay, so then you know the answer then.
Well,
the
no,
federal
because
government,
the answer I asked is, are you adding a tax?
The answer is the federal government has to do its job.
And what if we don't?
Well, look, there are 30,000 Ukrainians in this city right now who sought asylum, who were refugees. What's the difference between that crisis and the crisis that we're experiencing now? So this is not an unprecedented demand. There were services that were attached to individuals who were seeking asylum from the Ukraine, and the federal government acted. And so my question is, and it's the question that everybody is raising, what's the difference between those who are seeking asylum in this country, 30,000 of whom are in the city of Chicago? What's the difference between Ukrainian refugees and those who are seeking asylum from Central and South America?
Right, but that's not the question that the people of Chicago are asking. The people of Chicago want to know, will you raise a tax, whether it be a property tax or implement something else?
Well, it's interesting. No one has ever asked me if I'm going to raise a tax. In fact, I did not raise property taxes. And still, without raising property taxes, a full investment in homelessness, $250 million, $100 million for violence prevention. We're going to open up mental health clinics. We've eliminated sub-minimum wage. Black and brown women who were tip workers. We're talking about tip workers that's attached to slavery. We abolished that in this city. We've also added paid time off for thousands of workers. We're investing in people. My administration has not missed a beat. We have built an operation centered around people's humanity to respond to this international crisis that the federal government has been negligent in. And while doing all of that, I've still kept every single promise that I was going to invest in people.
So you can commit to you not raising property taxes, regardless of how bad the situation gets?
My budget, the $16.77 billion that I just passed, 41 alders, I believe, supported this budget. And we did all of that without raising property taxes.
So yeah, Brandon Johnson, not the sharpest tool in the shed. Speaking of tools that they are using, they're sending all this construction equipment to try and build massive migrant tent centers in downtown Chicago, because that's definitely what you want. Residents of Chicago who voted for Brandon Johnson now have filed a lawsuit protesting against the housing for migrants in public spaces. Here we go. Black residents sue Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson over migrant tent city. State has had to halt the construction. Mayor Brandon Johnson is planning to build a tent encampment for 1,400 illegal criminal aliens. Has been under fire since it was proposed. Residents quickly organized to oppose the plan to put hundreds of illegal criminal migrants into their neighborhoods. You've already heard what the black residents of Chicago have to think about that. Oh, baby, you ain't heard nothing yet. Watch.
Yeah, Dana, we're here at the landing zone where migrants continue to be dropped off on a daily basis. And we're talking about nearly $800 million that Chicago and Illinois have put towards taking care of these migrants who have arrived over the last year. Healthcare, housing, and education. And that is frustrating a lot of folks in Chicago's black communities who say those are the same resources that they have been needing and asking for years, but have had taken away or just denied due to a lack of funding. funding that is now apparently available for the migrants. That has led to protest from the black community against Mayor Brandon Johnson, who continues to welcome migrants while touting Chicago's sanctuary status.
Setting the city back with this crap they're doing. They don't have the infrastructure. They don't have the finances. At some point, it has to stop.
It's also led to a lot of frustration with Democrats in general, including President Biden. And now we're hearing from some lifelong Democrats who are considering voting for a Republican for the first time in their lives this November, largely due to the border crisis.
You know, the vote, I think it changed for me, it could change at the voting ballot box.
What I say to President Biden and the entire Democratic Party is that you have missed the mark with this, and you have lost some very committed voters.
Nearly half of black voters in a recent Fox News survey said they didn't approve of Biden's handling of border security. And if enough black voters stay home or vote Republican, that could spell trouble for President Biden's re-election chances. Dana?
See that, Garrett Tenney. Thank you.
Oh, and it gets so much worse. It always gets worse. I love that it gets worse. Chicago will be where the DNC convention is being held this year. Oh, that's going to be a wall-to-wall fun time. We look forward to going. If you think you're going to have a peaceful Democratic convention while our people are starving, stay tuned. Black Chicago residents issue warning to Democrats and Joe Biden. Oh, man. So now they're warning Joe Biden not to come to Chicago. Oh, baby. They're putting it on film. They're ready to go. Stay tuned, they say. Stay tuned. Oh, man. If you really want to see the absolute pain and savagery, quite frankly, of what these people have done to Chicago, which is just a great American city. Doesn't vote the way I want it to vote, but I've been to Chicago a bunch of times. I really love that city a lot. I think it's a wonderful city. It has like heart to it. Has a lot of great places. I have a lot of great memories there, honestly. Like, go watch this from Real America's Voice. It'll break your heart, actually, if you care about Chicago at all. 3 black Chicago men expose how the government is spending $500 million on housing and tents for foreign nationals while their streets are already filled with homeless. We're going to flip Chicago red. The Democrat Party is done in Chicago. Watch.
How do you justify leaving the amount of people on the streets that are out here? And you're building tents, warm tents, to house 2,000 illegals? I went from tent to tent. Some of these people are veterans. How do you justify people being homeless at this rate?
We're seeing increased taxes. We're struggling to pay our mortgages. We're struggling to pay our bills. And we have thousands of dollars every month, millions of dollars, $500 million this year to support foreign nationals. And that's coming out of our pocket. It's going to people from another country, from foreign nationals. Those countries have to take care of their people. We just don't have the resources. You know, it's nothing against them, but we just don't have it. You know, we're struggling. This is government oppression at its finest. As a veteran myself, I just talked to a veteran in this tent right here. You know, we're seeing people who have given their all to their country, and we just cast them out by the expressway with the trash. This is unconscionable, and it's unconstitutional. Meanwhile, we have to follow every law. We can't go over the speed limit without getting a ticket sent to our house, but people can violate federal law, and we come in and roll out the welcome mat, give them our home equity, give them our sales taxes. They get the best of our schools. Meanwhile, something like 90% of black children are not reading, writing, and doing math proficiency, but they do it all under the guise of this fake diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense. We just need to start voting differently. We need to start pulling ourselves out of these government institutions, starting with the public school system. We need to move on from big government and from the city of Chicago's political machine.
This is taken away from American citizens, American children who are already struggling academically. You're going to bring in a new group of children, a new group of people, take those resources away from Americans to accommodate this new group of people. That is going to make the children going to fall further behind. Unemployment is going through the roof. Poverty, crime. This is going to impact our communities across this city to the point to where violence, murder, robbery is going to spike. not just with Americans, but also with these people coming here. 3,000 illegal immigrants are living in this factory, almost, what, a half a block long? And this is going to transcend into public housing. They keep saying that there will be no public housing for illegal immigrants. That's not true. So we pay to be homeless, basically, now as United States citizens. We're going to flip Chicago red. The Democratic Party is done in Chicago, and that's a fact. By summer, you think it's a lot of them coming in. You watch the uprising of red in Chicago.